Zara Larsson technically died for several minutes the moment she was born, but today she is the loudest voice in global pop. After winning a national talent show at just 10 years old, she vanished from the spotlight, only to resurface years later as a digital rebel who refuses to be silenced by the internet's harshest critics. Her journey is a chaotic mix of record-breaking hits, high-stakes political wars with world leaders, and viral memes that turned her flop era into a financial powerhouse. This is the story of how a Swedish child prodigy escaped the Khia Asylum to become the most untamable pop star of 2026. To understand Zara Larsson's relentless drive, you have to look at the very first minute of her life, which was spent in total silence. She was born technically dead due to a nuchal cord, the umbilical cord wrapped tightly around her neck, cutting off her oxygen supply at the moment of birth. Doctors had to perform a miracle to bring her back, a brush with mortality that seems to have left a permanent mark on her psyche. By the age of 5, she wasn't dreaming of toys or games. She told her parents she wanted to become immortal, like Elvis Presley. This all-in intensity became her baseline, fueling a childhood obsession with becoming a legend that most kids couldn't even comprehend. It wasn't just about fame, it was about proving that a life that almost didn't happen was going to be the loudest one in the room. Winning the Swedish version of Got Talent at age 10 should have been the start of a massive empire, but for Zara, it was the beginning of a frustrating 4-year blackout. Despite pocketing over $50,000 and reaching the top 10 with a Celine Dion cover, the industry didn't come knocking. She spent her early teens in a normal life at the Royal Swedish Ballet School, watching as the fame from her childhood victory slowly evaporated. At one point, she even flew to Los Angeles to audition for Disney and major US labels, only to be rejected for being too young for their marketing machines. It was a period of intense pressure where she feared her career had peaked before she even reached high school, nearly becoming a trivia question about whatever happened to that girl. It wasn't until she was 14 that she finally signed the deal that would launch her second act, proving that sometimes the best way to survive child stardom is to simply wait it out. For over a decade, the internet held Zara Larsson hostage in what fans call the Khia Asylum, a fictional pop star prison for artists who have massive hits but zero brand identity. Everyone on Earth has heard Lush Life, yet for years, most people couldn't pick Zara out of a lineup. She was the ultimate song artist, a voice without a face who lived in the shadow of her own streaming numbers. In 2025, she finally addressed the flop allegations head-on, admitting that while her newer projects weren't touching her old records, she was no longer afraid of the labels. By leaning into her too-online personality and sharpening her visual brand, she began the difficult transition from a studio product to a recognizable celebrity. It was a high-stakes gamble to prove that she was more than just a voice on a playlist. She was a person worth following. While most pop stars pay teams of thousands to curate a polished, distant image, Zara Larsson's greatest marketing weapon is her own smartphone. In a recent 2026 interview, she checked her screen time live to find it hitting a staggering 16 hours a day, mostly fueled by a deep obsession with TikTok and Pinterest. She refuses to hand over her passwords to a social media manager, choosing instead to live in the trenches of her own comment sections. This isn't just a bad habit, it's a strategic choice to stay chronically online, allowing her to spot memes before they peak and respond to flop allegations with a level of wit that PR teams would usually censor. By embracing the glittering chaos of the internet rather than hiding from it, she has pioneered a new type of pop star authenticity that prioritizes being a person over being a product. Long before she was a global star, Zara was a teenage blogger in Sweden who became the target of a national firestorm for her radical feminist views. At just 15, she famously posted a picture of a condom stretched over her leg to mock men who complained they were too big, a move that generated headlines across Europe. Her unapologetic stance and man-hater label nearly derailed her early attempts at a US breakthrough, as critics and industry insiders worried she was too polarizing for the mainstream. But rather than retracting her statements or issuing a generic apology, she doubled down, arguing that her anger was a response to systemic issues rather than individual people. This refusal to back down established her as a rebel in an industry that usually rewards silence, proving that her brand was built on controversy as much as it was on high-energy pop. In early 2026, Zara's online life collided with international politics in the most surreal way possible during a heated clash with the White House. The controversy began when her partner faced high-profile travel restrictions, prompting Zara to use her massive platform to vent her frustrations with the current administration. The situation turned into a viral spectacle when an official social media account seemingly mocked the singer by using a parody video set to her own hit, Lush Life. It was a bizarre, high-stakes moment that saw a global pop star trading blows with government spokespeople over immigration policy and personal freedom. This clash didn't just trend, it solidified her status as an artist who is willing to risk her career standing to fight personal and political battles in the public square. In 2024, the internet did something that no marketing team could ever plan. It turned a 7-year-old love song into a dark comedy masterpiece. The Symphony dolphin meme exploded on TikTok, pairing the euphoric chorus of Zara's 2017 hit with vibrant, rainbow-drenched images of dolphins jumping out of the ocean, all while displaying captions like, "I'm depressed" or "I have social anxiety." The contrast between the infectiously happy vocals and the melodramatic, often misanthropic text turned the song into a global anthem for Gen Z irony. Zara's reaction was legendary. Rather than being offended by the dark humor, she posted her own video asking, "What the f is happening?" before eventually incorporating the actual meme visuals into her live concert backdrops. This organic revival pushed the song back to the #1 spot on the Billboard TikTok chart, nearly a decade after its release, proving that in the digital age, a dead hit is only one dolphin meme away from a second life. By late 2025, Zara began her high-stakes transition from pop star to business mogul with the launch of her own brand, Main Rose. Unlike the typical celebrity makeup lines that have saturated the market, she chose a more intimate path, focusing on comfort first, lingerie, and sexual wellness. Co-founded with the entrepreneur behind the Swedish razor giant Estrid, Main Rose was designed to reflect her unapologetically feminine but edgy personality. A brand built for people who want to feel like the main character of their own lives. She even used the launch to highlight her recent independence, having finally bought back her master recordings and starting her own label, Summer House. This pivot wasn't just about selling loungewear. It was a strategic move to build long-term brand equity outside of the volatile music charts. By centering women's health and pleasure in her business model, she effectively detached her financial future from the flop cycles of the industry. The culmination of this radical rebrand arrived with the release of her 2025 album, Midnight Sun, a project that critics are calling the most Swedish and mature work of her career. Drawing inspiration from the endless light of a Scandinavian summer, the album leans into a neon Y2K-inspired aesthetic that features a surreal collaboration with the legendary Lisa Frank. This era marks her Saturn return, a period of personal and creative renewal where she has moved away from being a polished studio product and toward becoming a co-writer on every track. The accompanying 2026 world tour has already become a sellout phenomenon, proving that her decision to be too online, politically vocal and musically vulnerable actually paid off. She has successfully navigated the dangerous transition from a child prodigy with a radio voice to a self-assured artist with a dedicated cult following. By choosing authenticity and ownership over a safe, polished image, she has proven that being a human person is far more powerful than being a perfect product. In an era where fame is often fleeting, Zara has shown that the only way to stay immortal is to keep changing your shape. Zara Larsson's career is a blueprint for how to survive the brutal landscape of modern pop by doing exactly what the industry warns against. She refused to hide from the flop allegations, spoke her mind on politics even when it meant clashing with world leaders, and leaned into the beautiful chaos of internet memes.